There, good evening. Welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. A weekend of violence as police begin two separate murder inquiries after 4 people died.
Just disgusting, it's horrible. I just don't know what to feel. I don't know how I'm going to cope without him and stuff like that. It's young, and for the other lads as well, it's disgusting. I just don't know why it's happened.
We'll be live in Halifax with the latest on the investigations. Also tonight, a Sheffield Wednesday fan admits a public order offence after taunting Sunderland supporters with a picture of a 6-year-old boy who died of cancer. Yorkshire Water promises to reduce the amount of sewage it pumps into our rivers and the sea. And Children in Need is back. This year the theme is Challenge Yourself, so find out what Pudsey and I are going to be doing.
And it turned out to be a record-breaking September. More details about that shortly. Plus, what does early October look like? Join me for the weekend forecast.
Hello, I hope you're well this Monday evening. 4 men have been stabbed to death in West Yorkshire over the weekend, with police pledging to do everything they can to bring their killers to justice. 2 people died after an assault in Halifax in the early hours of yesterday, while another 2 men were killed in the Hare Hills area of Leeds. Sabia Pervez is live in Halifax for us. Sabia, you've been at the scene all day. What's been happening there?
Well, Amy, when we arrived in Halifax this morning, many of the bouquets that you can see behind me had already been laid, an indication of the horror that unfolded on these streets in the early hours of yesterday morning. Many of the families and loved ones of those affected came here to pay their respects. Some of them are still here right now, too distraught to speak to us on camera. The shock, the grief, the pain here is palpable. Many of the roads in Halifax today were cordoned off as officers combed through hedges and bushes looking for clues as the investigation continues.
What happened over the weekend?
Well, officers were called here to Commercial Street in Halifax to report that 3 men had been assaulted. All 3 men were taken to hospital with stab wounds. 2 of the men, a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old, died in hospital. An 18-year-old was then treated for non-life-threatening injuries. One of the victims who died was named locally as Haider Shah. 3 men have been arrested in connection with this incident, 2 18-year-olds and 1 19-year-old. Matthew Clegg was best friends with one of the victims.
He's one of my best mates. We've grown up with each other since, obviously, we were little, very, very little. We've grown up with each other, best mates. Like, we used to do everything together, and it's just disgusting. It's horrible. I just don't know what to feel. I don't know how I'm going to cope without him and stuff like that. It's young, and for the other lads as well, it's disgusting. I just don't know why it's happened.
Tony Martin works in the arcade nearby, and he told us what he saw.
I mean, an incident had happened, and I didn't know on the Sunday until I came to work this morning, and obviously the police had taped everything off, and that's how we found out. I am so sorrowful for the families of the 2 men, I should say, the men that have lost their lives in our lovely town, Halifax, and it's heartening, it's sickening, it is sickening to see it's on your doorstep now. It's happened on the doorstep.
Clearly shock and dismay in Halifax, and also in Leeds. Another fatal stabbing over the weekend. What more do we know about that, Sabia?
Well, West Yorkshire Police are also investigating a double murder which took place in Leeds on Saturday morning. The body of one man was found on Hilltop Avenue in Hare Hills, and a man with serious injuries was discovered nearby. He was taken to hospital for emergency treatment and died shortly afterwards. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder. Anyone with any information on what happened here or in Leeds has been urged to contact the police.
Sabia, thank you. Next tonight, a Sheffield Wednesday fan who taunted opposition supporters with a picture of Bradley Lowry has admitted a public order offence. Dale Horton was pictured laughing as he brandished the image on Friday during a match against Sunderland, the team Bradley supported before he died of cancer in 2017. Mark Ansell was in court today and sent us this report.
Your actions were utterly deplorable. You were plainly revelling in what you were doing. The words of District Judge James Gould describing the actions of Sheffield Wednesday fan Dale Horton. The 31-year-old from Rotherham admitted causing intentional harassment, alarm or distress, and also faces a football banning order. The image on Dale Horton's phone was of Bradley Lowry, the former Sunderland club mascot who died of neuroblastoma, aged 6. In response, Sheffield Wednesday fans set up a fundraising page for the Bradley Lowry Foundation. More than £20,000 has been donated.
It's just absolutely appalling, and the people at Sheffield Wednesday have got, hearts of gold, and I just couldn't accept that that's how we were being portrayed, and I think we've done such a good job in turning something that was very ugly into something extremely positive.
In a statement, Bradley's mum Gemma says, "I want to thank South Yorkshire Police and Sheffield Wednesday Football Club and their amazing fans for their quick response and condemnation of this disgusting act. I have been informed that one individual has pleaded guilty in court today, and I hope that this is a lesson to everyone that childhood cancer is no joke." Dale Horton, seen here in the pink hooded coat, was released on bail. He's due to be sentenced on Friday the 17th of September. The judge said all sentencing options are open, including a prison term. Mark Ansell, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
You're watching Monday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. Making a difference, the people going above and beyond to help their local communities. But before that, there's concern that many of the 12,000 families in our region who are raising grandchildren, nieces or nephews are struggling to cope. A report out today from the Kinship charity warns that some children are at risk of having to go into care because of the lack of financial support. Our social affairs correspondent Emma Glasby has been speaking to a family in Leeds about some of the challenges facing Kinship carers.
Hey! She's a wonderful little girl. She's a ray of sunshine. She really is a loving little girl. Wouldn't change her for the world. Here we go.
Ella came to live with her grandparents in Leeds when she was 10 months old. She's now 6. Ella has a rare condition called charge syndrome. It affects her ability to walk and talk, and she's fed through a machine. Caring for her has been a full-time job for her grandparents since she was a baby.
At the time I was self-employed. I'm not saying that I made a lot of money. I didn't. I paid bills and put bread on the table. Didn't have a chance to save anything, didn't earn enough money to save anything. But because of Ella's conditions, I had to give up work to take Ella on, along with my wife Julie. Truthfully, I've not looked back since.
They are among the many thousands of kinship carers in this country, looking after grandchildren or nieces and nephews. Because of Ella's condition, her grandparents do receive some financial support, but not as much as foster carers. Ella's medical needs mean household energy bills can be high.
Things have been difficult, just like everybody else. It's hard just living these days. If I want to have a haircut, I have to save for a week. Just put a few pence away each week so I've got enough money to go get a haircut. We work on a very tight budget regarding there's food, there's gas, there's electric. It ain't always about the money. I'd take Ella on without having a penny. It's about love. They need to know that they're safe, but it can be difficult, particularly with the finances.
For other kinship carers, the situation is worrying. The Kinship charity says 12% of the carers surveyed were concerned they might not be able to continue looking after a child.
There's a real risk that a lot of those children who are currently being cared for in kinship care could instead enter the local authority care system, we found that about 19,000 children potentially at risk of moving into local authority care because their kinship carers simply weren't getting the support they needed.
Clever girl.
Alan volunteers on a kinship charity helpline, giving support to other carers. He knows some of them are at financial breaking point.
There's been some people that I've talked to, honestly, I could cry when I put phone down afterwards. I've had people crying when we've been on phone. It's not a fair system. It doesn't work. It's not working properly.
Alan says his family gets by, but his concern is for the other kinship carers, worrying how they'll cope this winter. Emma Glasby, BBC Look North, Leeds.
She looks very happy, doesn't she? They're doing a very good job there. Let's bring you some other news from across our region now. Junior doctors and consultants across the region are on strike on the first day of a 3-day walkout. It's the latest in a series of strikes over pay. It started at 7 a.m. and it won't finish until Thursday morning. Emergency care is being staffed, but there'll only be minimal cover elsewhere. The Health Secretary says he's deeply disappointed and concerned by the strike. Hospital managers say they plan carefully to minimise the risk to patients.
The strikes have been challenging, but we've got teams who have been working flat out now for many, many weeks to make sure that our urgent and emergency services are all fully covered. So what we would say to people is, if you need us, if you have got an emergency or an urgent problem, then do please come, because we are fully open and prioritising your care.
People don't want to be on strike and people do want to be at work, but doctors' support for the industry action is as strong as ever. Junior doctors have just passed a new strike mandate for 6 months from August with a 98% yes vote again. So the strength of feeling from doctors isn't going anywhere, and we're here to stay if the government fail to negotiate.
A York man is back home and recovering after he was shot twice on holiday in New York and had to have emergency surgery. Cameron Robertson and his wife Jill headed to the Big Apple for a relaxing break to watch their favourite band. The last thing he expected was to be caught up in a shooting while returning to their hotel. The New York Police Department are trying to find 2 gunmen who fired the shots which hit Cameron in the arm and leg. Cameron spoke to Radio York earlier today.
We were just walking down the street, and I mean, it's a bit of a blur, but we heard pops. I think in the instant you think, oh, that might be like a car backfiring, and then we heard screams, and that's when we knew it wasn't. So we dove into the deli, which was just next to us, and that's when I felt the pain in my arm initially, and then my leg, and realised kind of in that what felt like a fairly decent chunk of time, probably seconds, that I'd been shot.
Gosh, so lucky, isn't he? Yorkshire Water is promising to drastically cut the number of times it pumps sewage into the sea at Scarborough. The company says that by 2030 it hopes sewage will only overflow into the sea twice a year. Between March and September this year, it happened 72 times. But the upgrade work will come at a cost, with bills expected to rise more than £100 a year. Here's our business correspondent Spencer Stokes.
There were very few days this summer when it was officially safe to swim in the sea at Scarborough. According to the campaign group Surfers Against Sewage, there were 72 sewage overflows into bathing water. But Yorkshire Water has set itself a target of reducing that to no more than 2 days every year by 2030. At a sewage works in Leeds this morning, the chief executive outlined the plan.
So it should be less than 2 a year, and hopefully it will be none, depending on the weather conditions. So the Scarborough investment is all going to happen from now, so we should see a big change in Scarborough in that period. It has been incredibly wet with large storms, as you know, and it's on those big storm days that we've seen the difficulties in Scarborough this year.
The North Bay has repeatedly been hit by sewage overflows from the drainage system, and South Bay has an ongoing pollution problem. Filey has also suffered with 18 sewage discharges between June and September. For campaigners, the promise of clean water still feels a long way off.
2030 is a target that they've come out with, but given the fact that there's 6 summer seasons to go in Scarborough, then we've obviously got, that could be presented as an issue to our visitors and obviously our traders along the South and North Bays.
Yorkshire Water say that their planned programme of works is their biggest ever investment, but consumers will have to pay a lot more as well. Bills rising by £80 in 2025 and will be £130 more by 2030. In total, £7.8 billion will be spent on upgrades, nearly £2 billion of that to reduce sewage output into rivers and the sea. There'll be more projects like this one in Ilkley, a huge tank to store wastewater. The scheme is welcomed, but not the extra charges.
Actually, if you've been doing your job, it wouldn't need to be done all in a rush now. They should have been doing it over time. Our rivers are an extension of the sewage system. They are just open sewers. Yorkshire Water has been abusing that, as have all the water companies, and we should absolutely not be paying for that.
Customers are paying for the infrastructure, but they're paying for different infrastructure, and they're paying over time. It's a significant rise, we recognise that, and that's why we're also putting a lot more money in to support vulnerable customers. So no low-income household will go without support from us over the course of the 5 years, and we're going to be investing more for each of them.
Water companies are reacting to the outcry over repeated releases of sewage, but bill payers will also have to help to fund the work to get the water quality they want. Spencer Stokes, BBC Look North, Leeds.
In the Championship, there were losses for Leeds, Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham, and Huddersfield Town had to settle for a draw in Darren Moore's first home game as manager. Delano Bergzor cut in through defenders to score for Huddersfield just after the hour, the fans sharing in that celebration. And the Terriers held on to their lead until Ipswich snatched a late equaliser 3 minutes from time. 1-1 the final score. In League Two, there was a win for Harrogate against the MK Dons, but it came in the form of an unusual own goal. It was a clearance from Dons goalkeeper that struck Warren O'Hora and rolled into the net, giving Harrogate a 1-0 victory and their second back-to-back win. Now, in Rugby League, the race for promotion to Super League is heating up, with the playoff semi-final ties decided after this weekend's eliminators. Bradford Bulls came from behind to beat York Knights by 22 points to 8. They will now head to France to play Toulouse in the semi-final. Featherstone Rovers will play London Broncos in the other semi, with Sheffield Eagles knocked out. And in wheelchair Super League, Leeds Rhinos are through to the grand final after beating Halifax Panthers. In a fiercely contested Yorkshire derby, it was Leeds who came out on top by 54 points to 44. The Rhinos will face either London Roosters or Wigan Warriors in the grand final on the 15th of October in Manchester. Well, there you go, Amy.
Thank you very much, Sally. Now, at the weekend, I was lucky enough to go to the BBC Radio Leeds. Basically, Radio Leeds hosted their annual Make a Difference Awards. I was lucky enough to go there. It shines a light on the wonderful, selfless things that people across West Yorkshire do to make life better for others in their community. I tell you, there was not a dry eye in the building. Ali Waterworth, who won the fundraising award, and Emily Land, the winner of the Bravery Award, came in earlier into the studio, and I started by asking Ali why she was nominated for her award.
I won the Fundraiser of the Year award because for the last 11 years I've been raising money to send families like my own on holiday to a caravan. We bought 4 caravans in Filey and 1 in Blackpool, and I send them on free respite holidays.
And you were inspired to do that because your son Rudy had cancer, didn't he?
He did, yes. Rudy was diagnosed at 6.5 months old with prostate and bladder cancer. We went on a free holiday ourselves, if I'm honest, and it inspired me to do something to try and make a difference, because it really changed everything I am when we went.
Well, he's now a healthy, strapping 15-year-old lad.
He's a 15-year, yeah, he is, yeah.
What difference does this make, Rudy's retreat, to other families who are going through what you went through?
We've had loads of positive feedback, life-changing I've had a few times, how they've just been able to go and escape the monotony of hospitals, of tests, of just getting away from it all and just being able to enjoy time away from the doctors and everything. It really does make a difference, it really does.
Emily, I'm sure you can relate to what Ali's saying, because your mum nominated you for the Bravery Award. It's been a tough couple of years for you, hasn't it? Tell us about that, Emily.
Yeah, you know, I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was 20. Just surreal, you know, the whole process of getting diagnosed and ringing the bell and then relapsing and having to find, you know, a match for my bone marrow transplant was crazy. You know, my match came from the Netherlands which is completely surreal.
But you've done so much, haven't you, to raise awareness about bone marrow transplant and finding the right match?
Yeah, Anthony Nolan, you know, we didn't know that they existed, and me and my boyfriend Ryan and my mum and, you know, all the family, we've all got together and just raised as much awareness as we can to get people on the register to make it more matches available to those who need it.
How are you doing now?
Great now. You know, almost perfect, but, you know, there is still some hiccups, but I'm back at work and enjoying things that I used to do. You know, it makes a massive difference to have the opportunity to do the stuff that you would normally take for granted.
That's great to hear. And Ali, for you at the weekend, what did it mean to be recognised for the work that you've done through Rudy's retreats?
It was absolutely fantastic. It meant the world to me. Well, I was just honoured, really, really honoured. The event was fantastic, and it shows all your hard work over all the years. You know, other people recognise that too. It was fantastic.
What was the highlight for you, Emily?
Winning, but
obviously.
Yeah, has to say that. But, you know, seeing everyone else there and the stories and why they've been nominated and, you know, the things they've been through, and really makes you appreciate, you know, the wider community that you don't really see on your day-to-day life.
Yeah, it was so humbling and uplifting at the same time, wasn't it? It was a lovely event, and congratulations to you both.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, it's fewer than 50 days until one of my favourite events of the year, Children in Need, is back. Every November, you help the BBC raise millions of pounds and local charities benefit, in turn transforming the lives of children and young people. The theme this year is Challenge Yourself to be Spot-tacular, and that is exactly what I'd like to do with your help. I've been presenting Look North for 10 years now with a brilliant team behind the scenes supporting me. But I think it's time to get out of my comfort zone, try something new, spread my wings and, like Pudsey says, challenge myself. We want to hear from people with the most challenging jobs in our region. Perhaps it's a job that requires skill and is exhausting. Is it a job that requires nerves of steel? Or have you got a job that's downright exhilarating? You get the idea. If you've got a job like that, we want to hear from you, and maybe we'll join you for the day. Our friends from BBC Radio Leeds, Radio Sheffield and Radio York are going to be getting involved as well. So get in touch, email us at look.north@bbc.co.uk. We can't wait to hear from you, can we, Pudsey? The suggestions have already been coming in thick and fast, so thank you for them, I think. I'm not sure about some of the suggestions.
You can do the weather, can't you?
Well, I could do. It's not very challenging, that, though, is it, Paul? Anyone could do that.
Well, the auto cue, I mean, you don't need to be a rocket scientist, do you? Anyway.
How very... Why are you sat here?
I'm sat here because I've got some, again, Sheffield Western Park keep coming up with these gems. I mean,
is it another statistic?
It is a statistic, which is what the viewers just hang on till 5 to 7 for, and it has turned out to be the warmest September on record.
You told us that last week.
You know, I said it was on the verge of, but we hadn't got to the end of the month. Thank you very much. That's why you can't do my job. September, average temperatures. The average was 14.1. The previous record was 16.5, and we've beaten it by quite a margin. Those records, Amy, go back to 1882. Moreover, what is very unusual is September was warmer than July and August. June was the second warmest on record, July was the second wettest, and here we are with September the warmest on record. I mean, it really is, from a climate point of view, bonkers.
The thing is, you say it's been the warmest, but it hasn't actually felt that warm.
You're not the only person to tell me that, and I think this is an average of nighttime. Well, this is the average of a nighttime and a daytime temperature, but I think that it just goes to show that we are becoming acclimatised to warmer temperatures. I think if this September had been in the middle of the 1960s, people would be jumping up and down. But we're just getting used to a warmer climate.
And at the weekend, going into October,
well,
how's that looking?
Some unusual warmth coming up. I mean, I've been in this job for 30 years. These things can go wrong, but barbecues at the ready, it could really be
bikinis back out.
A very warm weekend. Let me show you a couple of pictures before we get on with the forecast. I love that. That was Leeds. last night with the moon just poking behind that cloud. Thanks for that, Andy. And we've got a picture in York now. Gary tells me that these pictures are crocuses, autumn crocuses. They look like cyclamen to me, but anyway, a lovely display nonetheless. There we are. The addresses are on your screen: Twitter, Instagram, and on the Weather Watcher website. So tonight's going to be quite wet with outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Tomorrow looks bright and breezy with sunny intervals and scattered showers. Now, this is an interesting chart. Pressure high to the south. These fronts flirting with us midweek, bringing a bit of patchy rain for a time. But what you can't see here is that the flow backs off to the southwest. And I think over the weekend, we should get temperatures around 23 or 24 degrees. Not record breaking, but nevertheless, a burst of unusual warmth coming up from sort of Spain, Portugal and France. Now there's a radar picture at the moment. You see those outbreaks of rain. It will be wet and miserable, perhaps some local thunderstorms across parts of South Yorkshire. But this weather front slides away southeastwards. We'll be left with overnight temperatures around 9 or 10 degrees. Tomorrow's high water times then: Scarborough 7:15, Filey at 7:22. So any overnight patch rain clearing, and then it's followed quite quickly with bright and breezy conditions, sunshine and showers. Most of the showers in the west, the best of the fine weather always further east, and we're looking at top afternoon temperatures, Amy, around 16 degrees. And that is the accurate forecast. Come on, you stand up and do it now.
Maybe tomorrow. I've been there before,
Oh, yes.
That's it from us. Our friend Phil Bodner is here with your late news at 10:30 this evening. But from all of us at the 6:30 team, good night.